This is an audio summary of Isaiah chapter 6, verses 1 through 8. Holy, holy, holy. To the viewers and subscribers, I am testing the waters to see if there is an audience for an audio summary of the Sunday school lesson for Precepts for Living. If you find that there is a need for such an audio summary, please subscribe and give me a thumbs up. Thank you so much in advance for your support. Summary: Isaiah chapter 6, verse 1. We may wonder why Isaiah's call is not recorded until chapter 6. The commission of Jeremiah and Ezekiel appear toward the beginning of their books, where we would expect them to be. Isaiah's call most likely did precede the messages of Isaiah chapter 1 through 5, chapters 1 through 5, but the account of the call is placed after them to make a crucial point. The first 5 chapters explain why a prophet like Isaiah was so desperately needed by God's people. Though it is quite feasible that Isaiah physically entered the temple, perhaps to pray concerning the crisis of King Uzziah's death or near death, the grandeur of all that Isaiah saw suggests that his vision was of the heavenly temple. One detail in the scene especially caught Isaiah's eye: the train of his robe. The Hebrew word translated train refers to the hem of a garment. The fact that just this part of the Lord's robe filled the temple testified to the overwhelming power and majesty of the one who occupied the throne. Chapter 6, verses 2 and 3. This is the only place in the Bible where seraphim are mentioned. In the ancient Near East, covering the feet and covering, or usually bowing, the head were expressions of homage, used especially in the presence of kings. Isaiah himself would soon acknowledge that he was in the presence of the king. Isaiah heard the angelic creatures proclaiming the holiness of the Lord to one another. This experience seems to have had an unforgettable impact on Isaiah, since he, more than any other Testament writer, used the expression Holy One of Israel in reference to God. Example, chapter 1, verse 4, chapter 29, verse 19. 6 and chapter 4. Isaiah chapter 6, verse 4. Isaiah's awe inspiring vision reached a climax as the doorposts began to shake because of the thunderous sound of praise coming from the seraphim crying out to one another. The smoke was presumably the smoke from the altar of incense, which in the earthly temple stood just before the most holy place. Isaiah chapter 6, verse 5. Having experienced the presence of the holy God, Isaiah became acutely aware of his own sinfulness. His mention of his unclean lips contrasts sharply with the angel's acknowledgement of the Lord's holiness. But Isaiah's condition was not unique to him. He knew he was among a people of unclean lips. He did not say this to excuse his own condition. He was simply confessing that the sin problem was nationwide. Isaiah chapter 6, verses 6 through 7. The Lord's response to Isaiah's admission of his sinfulness was not immediate judgment, but mercy. On the Day of Atonement, burning coals were taken from the altar of incense and brought within the most holy place to atone for both the high priest's sins and the sins of Israel. It is fitting that Isaiah's lips were purified, for only when his lips were clean could he speak for God. Isaiah chapter 6, verse 8. Not only did Isaiah see the Lord on his throne, now he heard the voice of the Lord saying, "Whom shall I send? And who will go for us?" The word us seems to refer to God, the King, speaking in the divine council with seraphim and even Isaiah present. thus serving to bring everyone into the deliberations. With the vision having shaken his soul and his sins having been forgiven, Isaiah was compelled to respond to God's challenge to be his servant, his prophet. Here am I, send me. Thank you so much for listening. Join me soon for the next audio summary of the Sunday school lesson. Stay safe and may God bless.